Get excited, bro.
I'm trying to keep it down here on a Monday night. Well, my wife's already sleeping, so I'm getting excited.
You're getting quietly. I'm quietly getting very
Quietly excited. Otherwise, she'll come in here and fuck me up with a hammer or something.
You have established already that she does beat you, so that's cool.
She
It's
is
like
willing to resort to violence, but it's always my fault though. That's what I've learned.
Butterfly effect is that.
It's what I've
you make
learned.
mistakes,
That it's I cause it. Yep.
That does happen. We can't
She likes to
control
say
them.
that the beatings will continue until morale improves in this house.
Gotcha. Does she just punch a wall real quick when you walk by, just to let you know that could be you?
Keep me on my toes. Yeah.
Hey, what's going
Punches the
on?
wall right by my head.
So,
welcome to Ready Player 2.
Start to Ready Player 2, where we talk about
where domestic violence is funny.
Oh man. Anyway,
it's only funny when it happens to the guy, right?
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
totally acceptable for comedy when we're getting our asses whooped. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the entire thing? Like, it's okay to make fun of when it's you, but you can't like make fun of somebody else. So like, yeah, I guess that's kind of what we're doing. Jesus Christ! It's a lot more.
You still check out. Have you checked out Joe Rogan's comedy podcast yet? I mean, comedy.
I have not.
Comedy special. Oh,
no, I know
that's one of his jokes. It's like. The dude's like, yo, we only give a fuck about the Me Too because it's women, but if it was like the other way around, nobody would give a fuck. Like, he's like
one of those awkward kind of jokes that you're like, yeah, you're probably right, but like it's a bummer.
Yeah. He did it well. No, he did it well though. He did it well. He was like, some dude comes in and goes, the producer lady wanted me to go down on her to get this role. He was like, look, you get to be fucking Batman, all right? Fucking do some fucking tongue exercises and suck it up, literally, like
That's okay. Yeah, all right, he's nailed it then. That's okay. That is the double, the double-edged sword to all of these discussions. Is like, we've even talked about on the podcast all the stuff when you hear about like teachers abusing kids and taking advantage of kids.
Yeah.
And stuff. And you're like, oh, it's disgusting. Like you're fucking grown-ass man taking advantage of a fucking like 15-year-old, 16-year-old, or whatever. But like, there's that part of me that like remembers when I was like 15. If
I would have totally banged
25-year-old teacher was like, "Hey, what's up, CraigMakk?" Like, I wouldn't have been like, "Ew, you're gross."
Yeah.
It's so weird. But reverse still. Even then, like if one of my colleagues, a female, was like some like teacher, like a male teacher, was like hitting on them or trying to like have sex with them, even then I knew that seemed gross and weird to me. I was like, what's wrong with you? You're a goddamn you're a goddamn grown man, and why
pedophile,
this girl? Yeah, like that's disgusting. Right. So anyway, we're way off topic already, and we are fucking
completely. This is a rabbit hole. We probably
we're not prepared. We're not prepared to go down this rabbit hole. So let's back it up.
As long as we're getting all crazy and all over the place, we might as well just delve right into the beer.
Exactly, because we are already obviously there based on our conversation. So let's dive right in. Again, the reason why we're able to do these things, or the reason why we started doing any of these live from the man cave, Ready Player 2, but basically, why did we become friends in the first place? All of that stems from a very real affinity and love of beer.
We like beer. We like beer.
I like beer. So on that note, we always have to kick it off. If you're new to any of this, I don't know why you would jump into Mission 9 of Ready Player 2, but if you are new to this...
But we'll catch you up.
We will catch you all up, but we will always start you off with our own personal beers of the show. So, Jess, why don't you tell us what yours is to get started?
I'm continuing with I still got some Queen of the Seven Kingdoms left from Omegang. Nice. It's a sour blonde ale blend, 6.4% ABV. It's from the Game of Thrones Royal Reserve collection. Nice. So I'm still sipping on that. If I finish it before this is over, then I will. I'll tell you the next one. I've got another one lined up from the Game of Thrones Royal Reserve collection.
Oh wow!
And I'll tell you what that is if I get that far. If not, I'll save it for the next one.
Nice. You are fully invested and ready for when the show comes back this summer.
Yes, sir.
Building up a tolerance in your liver for the final season of
hell yeah!
Thrones. I'm very excited. Obviously, because we're going to have Cave of Thrones come back at the same time, so we have to
that'll be great.
Tolerance now. Cool. So on my end, I am doing something a little bit different. This one is a it's kind of a change up or a you know when they make some this brewery with, so we've talked about them before as Weyerbacher, and so they're based
Oh,
actually
no,
not
I
far
like them.
from us,
Yeah.
yeah, in Easton, PA, and so these guys they do pretty often they'll kind of do some remixes of their regular beers, you know, so they'll kind of take like one of their standard beers and then brew it a little bit differently or brew it with some kind of an
Mhm.
adjunct or something to try to get like a little bit of a different flavor and then see how that goes, right? So one of the ones that they have had for quite some time is their Merry Monks, which is their
Oh,
beefy style
I like
triple.
the Merry
Yeah,
Monks. That's
Merry
good
Monks is
shit.
incredible, incredible beer. So what this one is, and this was kind of interesting when I found this one that I wanted to try this. I've never had this one before. This is their, it's called Berry Monks, and so this one
I've
is.
had that.
Have you had
Nice.
it? Oh, nice. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
it's
So
good.
this one is Berry Monks is a variation on our classic Belgian triple, Merry Monks, brewed with cranberries, orange peel, and ginger. This 9.3 ABV ale is ripe with apple and pear notes, which blend nicely with the tartness of the cranberries, the citrus twist of the orange peel, and a touch of ginger. It's great on its own or paired with your favorite holiday dish. So this one is I'm very excited. 9.3, like I said, and
You never had
already
it before?
starting off. I've never had this one, and it's cool
Okay.
because again, starting off with one of my more more favorite beers on the Weyerbacher side, Merry Monk. So to try it with a little bit of extra flavor kick to it. Oh man, you can smell, yeah, right away. You can definitely smell that. You can get a whiff almost immediately of that cranberry and kind of some of that orange, like zest to it. So that is almost immediately just from popping it open. So here, let me pour this into a glass. Get. Oh wow. Oh, that smells incredible. I'm so excited. Let's see what we got here. Oh, that's awesome. That is a surprising 9.3. That does not, because Merry Monks usually has like you get that immediate kick of the alcohol from it. Like
Right.
you can taste that right out of the gate. This one, I think, like all of the extra like fruit flavor to it, like that apple and pear that it almost like you get a little bit of like a pie esque like smell to it. But then you taste it, and then those fruits just mix together perfectly to almost like dull the like heavy like ABV side of it, like or the liquor flavor to it, in terms of like the heavy alcohol
Right.
kick to it. So this tastes like something that feels like you could probably drink, especially like if it was summertime. You could probably just sit outside and drink these. I mean, you get fucked up, but it doesn't. It does not taste like a traditional 9.3, which normally you'd be much more aware almost immediately. Like, all right, yeah, this definitely is going to put me on my ass. This one goes down real
Hmm.
nicely. I enjoy this, and we should probably get this show started before CraigMakk has some
Before you
problems.
get too fucked up to play,
Yeah,
start
exactly.
getting characters killed.
Exactly.
All
No, I
right,
always do that one over.
let me catch this up real quick. So
Yes.
again, we always encourage you guys. We post all these shows. I'm a little behind on posting. I didn't post Mission 7 and 8 yet on YouTube, but that'll probably
Right.
happen tonight.
Right.
But we encourage you guys to go back on YouTube, watch all our earlier episodes on these. If you don't have time, the format is kind of like the
Wow.
format is kind of we play it through. Each mission's about like maybe 20 minutes, and
Right.
then we talk out kind of like
Sometimes
how this
6 minutes.
yeah, right. And each mission, like we kind of discuss afterwards the things that jumped out at us, whether it's everything from the way the video game was produced to the script writing to the real life issues that this makes us think of.
Right.
So if you don't have time, if you like pull up sometimes they run long. They'll be like 2 hours, and if you're like, I don't have time to watch all these 2 hour like YouTube 1 hour, 2 hour. We had one where we went almost three. It's fine. Just watch the first 20 minutes just so you're caught up on the gameplay and you know how the story took place, because this game, it changes according to the choices you make, so it could be a completely different story. All right. So
Right.
for now, though, if you're watching this live, you want to get in on the chat, you want to watch what we're talking about, we'll catch you up real fast. This mission we're about to do is called the Interrogation. It's mission 9, and it has to do with Connor. Connor was introduced to us in the first chapter, the first mission, as a hostage negotiator android. They brought him in, and in Craig's story, he successfully saved this little girl by talking the android and like talking him down long enough so that a sniper could shoot him. Connor then was introduced, like sent over to meet his new partner, which is a police lieutenant, or a captain. I think it's like a lieutenant or maybe just a detective.
Yeah, I thought he was a sergeant, but yeah.
Is he a sergeant? Well, he used to be a very decorated cop that was very looked up to, and now something happened, and he's like a fucking drunk. And
definitely down on his luck.
So Connor and him pair up to investigate a murder in which an android was basically being beaten on by his owner, and finally had enough, turned on the owner, and murdered him in a very vicious way with like 29 stab wounds or whatever. Yeah. So the police are looking around. Connor does his specialized android investigation, which includes analyzing blood samples by like putting it in his mouth. Yeah. Which enables him to which doesn't really draw the applause of his human partners, but eventually he finds the android hiding upstairs, and the android's telling him, "Look, I was in fear for my life. Please don't tell on me." And Connor doesn't even think about it. He's like, "He's right here," and that's basically, I think, where it ends. Right?
That was the final scene. Yeah, it's literally him pulling him up there. Yep.
So I'm guessing this is the interrogation of the guy they caught.
Yes. All right. So a couple things that to Jeff's point, one of the key things to know about the way we have played this, or the way we have chosen to play this through, is Jest has already played this game and beaten it completely. I have not. This is the first time I am ever playing it, so this is all brand new to me. But to you, Jest, you obviously come with the knowledge of hindsight of having played through. So one of the benefits of that is he is able to guide a lot of our conversations through kind of the benefit of having the knowledge of what's to come. So he can ask me questions about individual thought processes or decisions that I made based upon that knowledge, without actually giving anything away, right? So he is able to kind of walk that line. So if you have never played this game before, you can connect with me and see everything for the first time. If you've played through this before, but know that obviously this game is based upon that butterfly effect of two people's playthroughs can be completely different. You can maybe see it from Jeff's point of view of having seen it before, but seeing some things differently, because already we have seen things dovetail in pretty significant ways between you and I's playthrough in terms of different things that we've done, different things that we've uncovered. Maybe nothing major to the point of like some of the other things that may come down the line, but this game is all about each playthrough is kind of your own. So that is also interesting, because just getting to see some different decisions that I'm making or different ways that things are played through on my end. So it's just to give you guys that background, so when you do see us do the discussion on the back end, that's why we're able to go down so many different paths and so many different discussions, because we can talk about what we just did all the way out to what's the implication of this story on the real world and everything in between. So that's pretty much it, right? I think we've nailed it at this point.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I think
let's hit that launch chapter.
Bring it back to this the super hot robot, that always just stares at us weirdly and awkwardly, makes like eye contact and then looks away. And as she's doing that, I'm gonna hit continue, but I'm gonna remember that there's that loading screen, so we'll talk right through that. Yeah, because many times I've been like, and let's do it, and then this happens, and then we awkwardly just stare at the screen for a little bit while there's nothing there. So
I'll use this time, by the way, to post a link to our website if you've never checked it out, livemancave.com. We do a podcast outside of this. It's called Live from the Man Cave, and I'll post the name again. You can find that on any podcast app, really, but you could also go directly to our website and get all the old episodes from there.
Yep.
And hear us cut up.
What happened before you took that knife?
Yes, this is definitely that guy. So that's Connor in the back. That's my partner from Pet Cemetery.
How long were you in the attic?
And there's the murderer.
Why didn't you even try to run away?
Ooh, he got fucked up.
Damn. Say something, goddammit! Fuck it, I'm out of here.
Fuck it, I'm out of here.
too old for this shit.
We're wasting our time interrogating a machine. We're getting nothing out of it.
You always try roughing it up a little.
Who's that
After
guy?
all,
Partner?
it's not human.
Another cop?
Androids don't feel pain. You would only damage it,
I love
and
the
that
way he
wouldn't
talks.
make it talk.
I love the way
Deviants also have a
so
tendency
good.
to self-destruct when they're in stressful situations.
Okay, smartass.
What should we do then?
Was he also at the crime
I
scene,
could
that
try
other cop?
questioning it.
I don't remember him being there.
Okay, he seems new to me, so.
What do we have to lose? Go ahead. Suspect's all yours.
He did do some very good voice acting. The guy who plays Hank, the guy from Pet Cemetery that we keep.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a good actor. I mean, the actors in this are.
Yeah.
And we haven't even seen my favorite actor out of this whole video game yet.
Ooh, extract confession. All right, here we go.
My favorite actor has not yet appeared.
He has not yet begun to be part of the game. All right, let's see. Oh, Connor. Let's see what we got. Signs of self-responsibility, probability of self-destruct low. All right.
So now you know we're back to this kind of like version of the game that you also have expressed that you like, where it's you know, it was choice making, philosophy, and then now there's just a straight up kind of playing the game and piecing clues together.
Like it's like Batman kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, searching through, figuring stuff out.
The Telltale version of Batman.
Yes. Property of Carlos Ortiz. This was actually in a lot of the Batman, though, the like detective vision.
Oh, right.
Like, able to like figure out, oh shit, that sucks. Repeated markings over 16 months. Oh, that guy sucked balls, huh? Carlos Ortiz.
Just burning them with cigarettes.
And not making you look good right now, Jess. Carlos Ortiz. I don't know where he's from.
Yeah.
Non-critical damage, level 2.
I'm gonna guess he's not white though.
Probably not. I mean,
He's probably one of those Mexicans that came over the wall. This is why we need a wall, CraigMakk. They're gonna come over here and they're gonna burn our androids.
And they thought that was a funny name.
Yeah, right. Carlos Ortiz Smith.
Right. He fucked his arm up. All right.
This is what happens when you let those wetbacks in the country. CraigMakk.
Stress for confession. What? Oh, okay. I'm gonna ask him. Let's just start.
My name is Connor. What about you? What's your name?
I just really, really fucking like the way Connor talks for some reason. It's so cheesy.
Damage.
It's just great.
Did your owner do that? Did he beat you? I'm not going to hurt you. I just need to ask you some questions so we can understand what happened.
Oh, come on! I gotta be more of a dick to him.
You don't seem to understand the situation.
You're making it like Candyland in
You
there.
killed a human.
He's like, I ain't telling
They'll
you
tear
shit,
apart if you don't say something.
bitch.
Oh, there you go. All right, he's starting to get stressed.
If you won't talk, I'm going to have to probe your memory.
No!
Oh, shit.
No,
Oh,
please
shit.
don't do that.
Oh, he did not like that. Damn, his face is fucked up.
What? What are they gonna do to me?
I gotta say, this actor for the android right here, like the
Gonna destroy
it's
me.
pretty good.
This guy, the murderer?
Yeah.
They're going to disassemble you to look for problems in your
Yes,
biocomponents.
They're both
They
really
have
good
no
at it.
choice
Like,
if they want to
Yeah, like
understand
it
what's
shines through.
yeah.
It's amazing how it's like you're watching them really act. Like,
Why couldn't you just have left me there?
you know, they're probably wearing those
I was programmed to hunt deviants like you.
turn on them.
I just
It's
accomplished
like, yo, why
my
you gotta
mission.
be a dick though?
Yeah.
You could have just let me
I
go.
accomplished my mission. That's pretty baller. He just said, I accomplished.
Then talk to me.
I mean, the emotion on
I-
Connor's face is pretty legit. Like
Mm-hmm.
the actor emotes incredibly. Both of these guys do. You're right.
Yeah.
Choose an approach. Oh no. What? Oh, okay. Oh shit. Oh god. Pressure it, probe its memory, or convince it I'm gonna try to pressure. Oh,
28 stab wounds.
damn, Connor. All
Too
right.
much
Didn't
pressure.
want to leave him a chance, huh? Did you feel anger? Hate?
Okay. Oh, fuck.
All right. All right. Everything is going to
Blow
be
up, dude.
okay.
I don't know what the fucking... Oh, optimal's 56. Okay, that's what I needed to know. All right, now I got it.
I understand how you felt. You were overcome by anger and frustration. No one can blame you for what happened.
Come on, you little bitch.
Okay then, don't talk. What do I care after all? I mean, I'm not the one accused of murder, right?
Nice.
They'll make you suffer.
Ooh, wow, okay, that went
And
harder
they
than I
won't
thought.
stop until they hear what they want.
Yeah, you went for gusto, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
It doesn't
Damn.
have to be that way.
They'll make you suffer.
It all depends on
You ever had your shit pushed in?
He tortured me every day. I did.
Carlos
everything he told
Ortiz's
me.
hands will seem loving after they're done
There
with
was
you.
always something wrong.
Oh, man.
Then one day,
Oh, man.
he took a bat and started hitting me.
Wow, you have to be a crazy person to do
For
that.
the first time, I felt scared.
There are people that enjoy
Scared he might
violence
destroy me.
just for
Scared
violence
I
sake
might
and
die.
no consequences on
So I
Oh, Hank.
an android that like maybe doesn't feel
grabbed
it.
a knife and I stabbed him in the stomach.
Yeah, you did. We saw.
I felt better. So I stabbed him again and again until he collapsed.
And I stabbed him 28 times more.
There was blood everywhere.
Oh, shit.
The sculpture in the bathroom. You made it, right? What does it represent?
It's an offering. An offering so I'll be saved.
What? Weird. Okay.
The sculpture was an offering. An offering to whom?
To RA9. Only RA9 can save us.
What is going on? Alright, let's see.
RA9. It was written on the bathroom wall. What does it mean?
The day shall come when we will no longer be slaves. No more threats.
It's like iRobot.
No more humiliation.
I did not murder him.
We will be the masters.
Oh, now you're being creepy, dude. Slow your fucking roll.
RA9. Who is RA9? Why did you write "I am alive" on the wall?
He used to tell me
I have some questions and I want them answered immediately.
that was just a
Who
piece
is
of
your daddy,
plastic.
and what does he do?
I had to write it to tell him he was wrong.
When did you start feeling emotion?
Before he used to beat me and I never said anything. But one day I realized it wasn't fair. I felt anger, hatred. And then I knew what I had to do.
Why did you hide in the attic instead of running away?
I didn't know what to do. For the first time, there was no one there to tell me. I was scared. So I hid.
I'm done.
Damn, Connor, you are a beast. Anything else I can do? No. You just gotta weirdly make make eye contact while I stand up. Did you see how weird his eye contact was when he got up?
He's like, hey, Connor, you guys gonna let me go now? You lied to me, Connor. You lied to me. Why don't you walk around the table? What are you doing, a victory lap? Is this a victory lap right now?
One
Like,
motherfucker!
yeah, bitch!
Got a goddamn confession.
You do a little dance now?
Yep.
Let that motherfucker know I beat you, bitch!
Oh shit, oh shit. Oh shit, he's stressed.
What the fuck are you doing? Move it!
You shouldn't touch it. It'll self-destruct if it feels threatened.
Stay out of this, got it? The fucking Andrew's gonna tell me what to do.
You don't understand. If it self-destructs, we won't get anything out of it.
I told you to shut your fucking mouth! Chris, gonna move this asshole or what? I'm trying!
What?
I can't let you do that. Leave it alone now.
I warned you, motherfucker!
Yeah, okay.
That's enough. Mind your own business, Hank.
I said that's enough.
Oh, baller, Hank. Hank is a pimp. Fuck.
You're not gonna get away with it this time.
Fuck. I don't like the way he says fuck. It's really annoying and weird. Also,
Everything is all right.
fuck.
It's over.
He says it like F-I-C-K.
Nobody's gonna hurt you.
Thick.
Oh,
Don't
fuck.
touch it. Let it follow you out of the room, and it won't cause any trouble.
I like that he keeps calling it, but I guess he's not aware yet. But, thank you. Say thank you, motherfucker.
The truth is this.
Say thank you.
Boom, I unlocked some shit
Well-
for that. I like that Hank was on my side on that. And also, that guy seemed like he overreacted really strongly to the fact that I was like, hey, maybe don't let it self-destruct because that might also fucking hurt us. And that guy was like, fuck you! And he pulled a gun on me. I'm like, what? You're just weirdly overreacting to everything. Confession,
All right.
trophy and confession.
So for those of you who are watching, yes, this is how quick the missions last.
Yep.
Yeah, and our talking probably goes longer than missions. On this one, I think we've already kind of said a lot while it was going on, because again, this was less of a philosophy one and more just pushing the story along and learning things.
Right.
So it may be worth just jumping right to like go through the timeline, put up the world stats, and let's just do it that way. What do you think?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. All right. So I did 45% of that mission overall. The public opinion is still skeptical, but Hank is now warm. I don't know if that's for everybody at this point. I mean, it seemed like I made a couple of right decisions.
I only got 38% when I did this one.
Okay. Oh, nice.
So you
All
did
right. So we'll see some
something I didn't.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so the Hank warm thing was, I know I had been kind of trending towards that from the earlier mission. I mean, he was like neutral, and then he was shitty to me, and then he eventually kind of crept back up to being, I guess, like, okay, whatever was just below warm, he was like cool with me or whatever. And then now we got him up to warm. So I do kind of like that part of that how they're constantly tracking like individuals that you're interacting with specifically in the story, and then also what do the people kind of at large think about the robots. And then my assumption is, I mean, I assume the software instability will be like once the character I'm playing goes deviant, like the Kara one probably ended. I don't remember anymore now, but that one probably ended saying like that she had gone deviant or whatever, like whatever the instability was, but I don't remember. So maybe that could be something else. But so I guess just
No, I think it's safe to say that Connor's the one that's gonna have that software instability
right.
thing being tracked.
Right.
And again, it's all how you choose to play Connor, right?
Right. So far, let's just go through. So if we start all the way back and we have the world stats.
Well, actually, hold on. Let me stop you. Let me stop you real quick.
Yes.
Since we're there.
Yep.
How are you playing Connor right now? I'm just curious. Like, what is your? You've seen Connor kind of go through each one of these missions now. Where do you see him on the spectrum of deviancy, if at all?
So I guess the easiest way to describe my thoughts on Connor are that I think he is intellectually understanding to some degree things are happening around him, even if he has not gone quote unquote deviant to like emotionally feel them. So I'm playing him in a way where like he understand like I'm not trying to play him as just like a straight like quote unquote robot, right? Where he's just like being a dick for dick's sake, like, well, fuck this guy, like I don't give a shit about this guy because like I kind of tried to play him like a cop during the in the goddamn the interrogation because during the interrogation in my head I was looking at it like even human beings that are actual people, not robots, know how to like I'll be kind of a dick and then I'll pull off a little bit and then I'll push you a little bit more and
Right.
then I'll try to befriend you. It's like whatever I need to do to try to get you to say what I want you to say. I kind of tried to play that and that didn't feel like he was being schizophrenic or weird to me. That actually felt pretty solid because that felt like the way a
Right.
police interrogation goes, right? Where they constantly put you in like a position of not really knowing what the next thing they're going to say to you is. The
Right.
next emotion they're going to
So
evoke.
your
But when
view
push
on
came to
Connor
shove,
still.
right?
Oh,
But
go,
when
go,
push, I
go.
was going to say, but when push came to shove, that moment when like the guy was being a cock to the murder suspect. Do we even know his name yet? I don't know if we do yet.
No, I don't.
Right.
I'm not sure that they gave it.
Right. So so that dude, like even when we didn't know, like I didn't know anything about him other than I got him to convince or to confess that he did it. I still was like, Connor would understand that like the treatment is wrong, even if he doesn't feel like emotionally like, hey, he's a person too. He would be like, you're just being a dick for no reason. Like you should. There's no reason to just treat him like shit. And so that's how I'm kind of trying to play him. Like in my mind, he seems like a person that is progressing towards an understanding of what's happening, right? And like what's happening around him, maybe an emotional breakthrough on that point. But he is at least already intellectually aware of what's happening and recognizes that it's not right. And so that's kind of the decisions that I've been trying to make is for him to step in and say, you know, say some things that are maybe almost like on the cusp of an understanding on the emotional end, but he's not quite there yet to be like, I'm a person and I should be able to do what I want. And I
Right.
think this was a
How
pretty
about
good
his
episode
feelings?
to
Like,
do it.
how about his sympathy? So
Yeah,
you, like, I remember in the mission one, um, you basically had him kind of lie to that dude to get him let the girl go. The guy got shot, and your version was, he doesn't feel bad at all about it. Mission accomplished, and that's what
right.
it
So
is.
again, a big part of that to me does feel like that lying to the guy, he wouldn't feel bad about that because, like I said, that's what a cop would actually do. Like a human being would say what they need to say to get him to be like, "Yo, let the kid go. We're gonna get you out of
Right.
here. Like, we'll get you a helicopter and we'll fly you away." And then they're like, "Fuck no, you're going to jail." But like that doesn't seem. That's why Connor's such an interesting character because they allow you to make decisions that actually make sense, even if like they seem like non-sympathetic or whatever because the whole point is he's a cop so he's dealing with people that have committed crimes or are in the
Right.
process of committing a crime so he should be able to say like don't worry no one's going to hurt you and then 2 seconds later a dude snipes him because it's like you had a fucking gun on a kid dude we had to get you to put the gun down and let the girl go for 1 second and then like if you're still a threat we have to neutralize that threat we would do that to a human being just as much as we do that to a robot or an android, right? So then the moments after the fact when like Connor has to kind of deal with the non, you know, the non like hyper threat situations, that's when you start to internalize or interpret your own, feelings on how does Connor feel about that. And so that's why my part was like you thought that he felt when he walked away from that sequence that he felt like guilty about it.
I felt like the way I viewed the character
Right.
at that point was that something didn't feel right about that
Mm-hmm.
for him. But then
Right.
again, because remember, like it kind of didn't apply to my story because originally that's what I did. Like
Right.
I didn't on purpose lie to him, but I ended up getting him shot, and then I was totally fine. I remember that's when I did the demo, and then when I
Right.
went back and I actually played it through for my story, Connor sacrificed himself for the
Right.
girl, so I didn't have to make that
That
viewpoint.
decision.
But
Right. And so I think for me, I more felt a similar way that I feel about like this, where he probably felt more like, I kind of felt more that he was like, hey, I like, why are these guys still being dicks to me? I did exactly what I was supposed to do. I actually did what they should have also wanted to do had they been in the same situation with as me, which is talk that motherfucker down, save this girl, and theoretically, if you can potentially neutralize the threat, without killing someone, right? I mean, that's what we hope cops want to do is neutralize a threat without resorting to like
That's a whole nother conversation.
Right. I mean, whatever. It's 2019, so like with that conversation is a whole nother podcast. But like that in our head, our thought is what he wanted to do was neutralize the threat. Now, did he know? Like, did I didn't hit a button that said tell the sniper to shoot the thing in the side of the head. Like I definitely did not do that. They did that. And I think they lead you to believe that those guys were like, it's a fucking robot, so of course we're shooting that motherfucker regardless. Like they just looked at it as fucking target practice at that point. So it wasn't like I didn't do they didn't say press X to give the thumbs up for take the shot, right? That I would have felt was more like unnecessary at that point, because at that point you could have run in and said, take this motherfucker down, throw cuffs on him, like subdue him, and the problem would have been taken care of. But then the thing was like, in my head, I perceived that I was like, he walked away and was like, I did what I needed to do. They're kind of still talking shit or looking down on me, when in reality, the only person that actually fucked up was the other cop that took a shot at him when he didn't need to. I did my part. And so in this, I felt almost the exact same way, where I was like, I did what I was supposed to do. I talked him down. I talked him into a place where he confessed what he did. Then you guys just came in, and the humans come in and just start fucking shit up again. Like, they just start roughing him up, and they're being dicks, and it's like, you already have him in cuffs. He's already basically just been sitting there. He's ready to go. Like, you just don't have to be an ass. And so, like, my version of Connor was like, I'm going to try to tell them, like, fucking stop. Like, you don't need to do this. Like, you got him already. He's here. Like, what's the point of, like now the one thing, and I did say last time where I was pretty impressed about how and by they I mean like the game is able to match usually what, like, when they have just a little button that says threat,
dialogue,
whatever, they can match the dialogue to what my perception is. That was the one time, and I actually mentioned it a couple times, that was the one time where it did jump out at me a little bit, where I wanted to be a little bit more empathetic to, like, yo, dude, why are you being an asshole? Like, why are you roughing him up? And, like, Connor kept saying, like, don't touch it. It's going to self-destruct, and then we won't get any information that we want. And I'm like, no, I'm actually trying to tell him, like, don't do it, because he just is being a fucking, like, bitch right now.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been, like, I don't have a problem with it too much. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, there's ways that CraigMakk would have played it. I think that's the game telling you. Yeah, Connor's
this is where Connor is in the story.
There.
And I get it. So, like, yeah, if they had added a separate section that said, like empathize or something, and it was like, I was like, hey, like, I see where he's coming from, stop being an asshole, and he still was like, don't touch it, I would have been like, well, then that doesn't make sense. So it makes sense, like, in the story, they were literally just saying, do you want to do nothing, or do you want to say stop? And so
it's an intervene or chill.
It was get out or intervene. And so I kept pushing, and that got a little bit nerve-wracking for a minute, because, like, as every time I kept saying intervene, like, his threat level or his pressure level kept going up, and I was like, I did get nervous almost to the point where I was like, should I back the fuck off on this? Because I could see in my head, like, this could be one of those, like, those Sophie's Choices where you choose the thing where you think you're trying to stop them from fucking with him, but in reality it ends up making him be like, ah, and he goes fucking crazy. But I still felt like, I was like, I've chosen a path. This is what I think Connor would do. Connor would try to stop them from being dicks. And actually the final one was, like I said, up to that point, they were like, I didn't necessarily love the fact that Connor was being so, like non-emotional or like such a lack of empathy when he was like, don't touch it because it's going to self-destruct and you won't get the information you want. But the final intervene was the one that I was like, yeah, all right, that was perfect, because that's exactly what I was like, stop just saying something, just jump in and be like, get the fuck off him. And literally he was like, get the fuck off him, and jumped in and, like, shoved him aside. And I was like, that's exactly, actually it was the perfect ramp up of say something, try to intervene, guy says fuck off, try to intervene one more time and try to use logic and say, oh, he's going to blow up and then you're not going to get anything you want. Why are you doing that? Guy still says fuck off. Then finally you're like, all right, if you're not going to listen, then I'm just going to say, get the fuck off him. Like, you're being a dick. And that's when he stepped in and did it. And then obviously the little Mexican standoff took place, and Hank stepped the fuck up like a boss and told his partner, or whoever that asshole was, to fuck off. And then that guy said fick 3 times and then he left. which was pretty great. That was my favorite part. But yeah, I think I might start saying that from now on. Oh,
Totally
man.
confuse everybody.
Yeah. Oh, so,
Your
yeah.
daughters will start repeating it at school, and it's just like, I want to say that what they're saying is probably wrong, but I can't
What?
pin it down to a curse word. Is she trying to say fuck? Absolutely not.
No, not at all. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that's great. So,
All right, so
yep.
obviously we all ended up in the observation room. Let's move
Yes.
over.
All right. So one thing I did actually want to ask you, they're making this look like so you could have not found the suspect. We found that out in the last time, right? Was that the thing? Is like if you didn't go into the attic at all, you wouldn't have found him because it's showing like
I
an
don't know.
unlocked.
I don't know that answer to my question, but yes, it is showing on.
It's
So yeah,
unlocked, so
no, you're right.
it makes you seem that like yeah,
You
you could
might
have
have
just
not
gone
found
and
him.
left.
Yeah.
Right, you didn't find him at all. So
You could have been one of like the 3% of players
Right.
that were too stupid to
too
find.
stupid to figure that out. Although I do assume they probably would have just been like, hey, your partner found him, because I doubt this entire chapter doesn't exist. But
No,
maybe,
but I'm not
you're right. Like
sure
you
because
said,
remember, like
the
when we
butterfly
talked, yeah,
effect,
right.
right? Yeah, it does exist within chapters. So
When
that's actually pretty cool. If you just you don't even get to interview this dude or interrogate this dude at all because you just didn't go up into the attic. That's kind of awesome.
Yep.
All right, I like that. So
it's actually funny. Remember when I told you how many we were planning this show out and kind of trying to figure out a timeline for how long Ready Player 2 is going to be doing Detroit? And I told you a number on mission, like the number of missions that there are.
Right.
And now as I'm thinking about it, like you may end up having more or less than that.
Right.
So
Right,
we don't
because
even
we don't know.
really
By
know
the way,
how many of these we're going to play.
before I go on, I do want to say, so I finished that Barry Monks, so I'm
Oh,
switching over to a
that was
totally
quick.
different beer. Yeah,
That
it
must have
went
been a
down
little
pretty
ass
nice.
bitch ass bottle.
It was, yeah. Well, hey, 40 minutes, man. 40 minutes is an okay amount of time to go through
Okay.
beer.
All right.
So this is Double Nickel Brewing, and this is I'm trying to stay within the same class of type of beer. That is their Belgian Golden Ale. So Double Nickel, in case anyone does not know, they are based right in New Jersey, so they're also local to us, which is very cool.
I'm not
They are
familiar with
actually
them.
they're relatively new. They are in Pennsauken, so Pennsauken is not far from from the man cave itself.
Oh,
It's so
Pennsauken
yeah,
is from the last time I've been there.
yep.
It reminds me of RoboCop era Detroit.
Yes, yep, exactly. And actually, Double Nickel looks like the place right
Shit is
outside
real there.
where the woman got shot, or the woman got shot right through her legs while the guy was trying to rape her, and he shot his dick off. Double Nickel
I didn't even hear
Brewery.
about that story. That's crazy.
No, that is in RoboCop. You've seen RoboCop when the guy's trying to rape
Oh,
the
yeah,
lady,
that was so
and he
long
shoots through
ago.
her legs,
Okay.
yeah, and shoots
Right.
his dick off. And then Double Nickel Brewery literally looks like that scene was filmed in the parking lot. So go check out Double Nickel Brewery because it's amazing. But anyway, Double Nickel Brewery, their Belgian Golden Ale, probably not on their marketing on their website. It's not like we look like the parking lot where the man got his penis shot off in RoboCop. But anyway, this classic
That would sell me.
yeah, let's make a road trip, man cave road trip. This Belgian style ale offers refreshing flavors of citrus, banana, and clove, accentuated by notes of hops, coriander, and spice, with a smooth wave of candied sugar. This sounds fucking amazing.
You had me at banana.
Yeah, exactly.
Banana beer.
And this is 8% alcohol. So.
What? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds perfectly delicious. I'm very excited. I've had a couple of their like IPAs and stuff. I have not had the golden ale yet. Oh my God, that smells. You smell the candied sugar almost immediately.
Damn.
Oh my God, that smells fucking
I want to go to
ridiculous.
there.
Yeah, we're making a trip. I'm not kidding. I started as a joke about the road trip to Double Nickel.
To Pennsauken?
We're going to make
I'm
a
gonna go strapped.
trip. Yeah, maybe at our Christmas trip we'll go out there.
Yes.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God.
Yeah,
You
give me a
have to
full
fucking try
description
this
here.
one. You have. So this one is. I mean, you taste. So the thing. Are you hearing me? Hello? Hello? Oh no. What happened?
back. You're back.
Oh, I'm back. Okay, wait. Yeah, you know what? I put the controller down for too long and my mic shut off. So this one, I don't know what the last
I
thing
was
you
like, gee, that motherfucker went crazy. Like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck this broadcast. I'm gonna just drink this shit. This shit's
over.
good.
Yeah, exactly. So this one, the first thing, like I said, you taste that little bit of sweetness, like right up front, that candied sugar, almost immediately. But it's got like the clove and the banana. I actually taste most heavily. So it's like a really cool kind of mix of like that banana flavor, but like the clove. So it's a little bit of like a sweetness with a bit of a spice mixed to it. But then you have the sugar that comes in, like the candy, like sugar, like it just this thing. This is amazing. This is absolutely incredible. I really, really like this. This is a beer that I could drink a lot of, and I think, I mean, I'm sure this, because there's so much going on in it, you could probably only have a couple of these before eventually I'm sure it would start to, turn on you. Like it would start to be a little bit too much. You'd need a palate cleanser from all the stuff that's happening. But everything meshes well. I know we've talked many times on the show before about the flavors meshing as opposed to competing. These are not competing. It's like they all complement each other very well, and it's incredible. And even the smell, it just smells like something you'd light a candle of this in your room, and just let it like permeate the room. It smells that good. This is fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
This is the double nickel Belgian golden ale, and I cannot recommend this enough. I'm gonna go buy more of these almost immediately. All right. Let's move on.
Since you moved on with beers,
okay,
I am done with the Which one was it? I'm saving the bottles on these, by the way, because people said
the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms or something, whatever it was.
That was the
Cersei
old
beer?
one, huh? It was the Cersei beer. Yeah, the sour ale, right? Yeah, Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. So now,
by the way,
every good queen needs.
Having it been your second time, I just wanted to ask because one of the things that you did lead into is that you're not necessarily a big fan of sour beers. I mean, we've talked about that before. So,
right.
Over having had this a couple different times, a couple different nights, are you
no, this is for me.
I know you had said this
no,
one was like a nice gateway.
I don't like. I still am not gonna go like, oh yeah, I'm down with sour. Like, I will avoid sour ales generally, but this one I would definitely drink.
Nice. All right. So like we talked about last time, it's a nice gateway entrance because it's not too sour, it's not too much. This is a decent one for that. So that's cool.
Yeah, this is probably like somebody who's like, you know what, a good example, like for me, right? Like I normally hate tuna fish, but a good tuna steak or like something like, fresh tuna from like a good sushi place, and I'm like, that's pretty damn good,
Right.
And that's how I felt about that one.
Nice. Okay, cool. So now
I'm going to move on from the Queen.
Yep.
To the Game of Thrones Royal Reserve Collection King in the North.
Nice.
Which is the barrel-aged Imperial Stout.
Yes.
This is more right up my alley. It's described as a beer for Jon Snow. A rich, bold Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels. Oh, this is my favorite kind of beer, too. So it's already winning. It's my favorite kind of beer from one of my favorite brewers, which is Ommegang.
Right.
And this is dark, aromatic, and full-bodied. It's a fitting companion for a long, dark night. 11% ABV.
Wow. Oh, you're going to be a problem. All right.
Awesome. All right, so I made the mistake of not pulling the it's got this fancy foil at the top, so you can't just crack it open like a regular beer with a can opener. You have to like peel back the foil.
Bombers, right? You're drinking full bombers of these.
Pint. Yeah. Pint.
Oh, it is only a pint. It's only a pint glass.
It's a pint.
Oh, I thought it was like the big bomber.
No, well,
I didn't even know they had them in pint glasses. Or in pint beers. I thought they had them only in the big bomber, which is like, 2.5 beers or whatever in them.
Well, they all look. This is the one that you're picturing. It's the big bottle, but it's only a pint full of, like, when you look at the actual content of the bottle, it's just like it's a thick, big glass bottle. It only contains 1 pint though.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
So it's not your little bottle that you would see in a 6-pack. It's the big one. But you know what I mean. But
so
all of those.
Those the big bottle only having only a pint in it, because like a regular 6-pack
pint is pretty big.
Is a pint.
No.
Yeah.
That's like a no.
No, your
A
average
six.
bottle.
When you buy a 6-pack, those little bottles are not a pint.
They're
A pint is much bigger than that.
they're
Those are
no,
like
but they're 12 ounces as opposed to 16
right.
ounces. So I mean, you're looking at like you're looking at slightly more, but a bomber bottle is usually like two. Like when I'm saying bomber, I'm talking about like the big full bottles that you would buy. Like you buy standalone on the wall of your thing. Those are
Yeah.
usually two beers or more.
No. Or unless it's 1 pint 9.4 fluid ounces. Maybe that's what it is.
Right. Yeah. So you're looking at like almost two beers. Right. Okay. So that one
Two.
is
So
slightly
yeah.
yeah.
So two. Okay, I read that wrong. My fault.
Right.
My
Yeah. Okay.
fault. All right. So all right. So
All right.
I'm
Cool.
I'm going to
Let's try this,
drink
guys.
this joint right out of the bottle.
This
King of the
sounds amazing.
North.
I've had this one and I love it, and it's making me want it right now.
The smell already is just like it's a nice, rich, stout smell. It's like I don't smell the bourbon though. Yeah, I can smell the. It's just a hint of bourbon right now in the smell, but overwhelmingly it's the stout. It's like the rich, almost tastes like how can I describe it best? It's almost like a cereal beer type of smell. And now I'm gonna take my first sip. Mmm. You can taste the darkness, like the stout is just,
Darkness.
it's almost like a molasses type of beer.
Right.
The bourbon is just oh so light. It's at the very, it almost comes on at the very end of the drink. You take your swig and you're overwhelmed with this very rich, like molasses, like almost stout. Just pours, it's just so damn good. And then the bourbon comes in on the back end with just a hint of it. This is amazing. I love this beer. God damn, oh my god, it's so fucking good. We need to take a trip up there
We really
to
do.
where is it, Cooperstown?
Cooperstown. Yep.
Seriously, man. Oh
I tell
my
you,
god, this is so
my
good.
brother when he went up for my birthday a couple of years ago, he went up and bought that. We actually drank out of it when you came down to the man cave. There's that goblet, the Omegon goblet, where they
Oh
make
yep.
them. They're all handmade, so every single one of them is literally a one of a kind because they're just
Oh wow.
they're all just
I want to
and
go there.
it looks so badass. Yeah. So when I used to have, remember when we split for Christmas that one year, we had the Game of Thrones beers that came with the other Game of Thrones goblet, and then on top of that, I had the Omegon goblet. So that was like the perfect goblet to drink any fucking Game of Thrones beer out of because you literally just look like you've just come back from murdering one of your political rivals when you drink out of that fucking goblet. It's so badass. So
Damn, this is so
that may be
good.
used. That may be used for our holiday party that
Nice.
we're gonna be having.
Can
So
can you only buy them at the brewery or
I
like can
think
you
they're
order
only
them
available at
online
the.
or?
I think you can only buy them at the brewery. He went
Wow.
up there, bought it, and then brought it back for my birthday. And I don't think you
Oh,
can
we
get them. I mean,
gotta go.
I'm sure you can maybe get them. You can buy them like secondhand. I'm sure other people have like. I have 3 of them, and I'm gonna sell them on eBay or whatever. But I don't think you can buy them like from the brewery online. I think you can only buy them in their brewery, and it's a fucking. It's such a worth it trip to that brewery. It's so cool. Plus, you're in Cooperstown, so it's fucking cool anyway. So why not do a double whammy and just check out the area and then go fucking get drunk at Omegang? I'm down. That's definitely we can make that and the double nickel, either one, whichever one, or
Yeah.
both. Let's do both. One's
Oh
much
yeah.
easier to get to. The other one will be more of a road trip, and it's still worth it. All right,
We break for beer.
exactly. I'm down with all the things that are happening right now. Oh, nice. All right, you want me to move into this a little bit? Are you ready to go, or you want to anything else
No,
that
let's
we
do
need
it.
to? All right, so observation room where we started. So let's see what happened. I believe, yep, we have the world stats are already up. So analyze Android, 97% of people. I mean, obviously you're doing that right away. Why would you not? So it
Right.
seems. I mean, is when you have that option. So there was automatically an option that I didn't choose. I don't know. Did you choose that? The
No,
one
the
down
bottom
below?
area.
Okay, yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
remember
No,
what that
it's
even
blank for me.
was. That could have been. Oh, that could have been just get up right away because you had the option to just get up and not even talk to him.
All right.
So maybe
Right.
that's if you just bail on the conversation, you can just start to bail. Maybe he'll say something or maybe he doesn't, but maybe that goes down another
Right.
path. Oh no, because it looks like it ends there. So maybe that is literally you just get up and then
Yeah, you just fucking end the episode right
just
there
end the
because you're
episode. That would
fucking.
be fucking hilarious.
Although it looks like there's like you see how there's like pluses there? That looks like there's nodes that are just not revealed because we
Okay,
didn't
yeah.
unlock that one.
So obviously, everyone that analyzed the android did analyze the stress levels and analyze the wounds
In the
also.
wounds, right?
So 3% of people did the fuck this guy and got up and walked away, but almost everyone analyzed him and talked to him. So choosing approach, this will be interesting. I want to see what people chose. Um, I
Oh my
did.
god, every fucking taste of this beer, I'm just like, oh, I love it.
That's awesome. It's so good.
It's like the equivalent of like this is to beer what like Ben and Jerry's is to ice cream for me right now.
So
I
you, by
can't
the
stop
way,
drinking it.
speaking of you, because we had just talked about when I had the berry monks, where I was like, hey, this is not like it doesn't taste like a 9.2. What are your thoughts on? I mean, you said that one's 11, right?
This is 11, and I'm not. It doesn't have an overwhelming alcohol taste.
Right,
But the beer is almost like coffee. It's that strong.
right. So you're more
Um,
sipping on that guy.
I'm sipping on. It's so good that I'm just taking like gulps. Like
I'm sipping on
I'm
it
not
by
like downing
gulping.
it. Yeah, like I'll take like a sip slash gulp.
Right.
This is so fucking good. But
It
the
does go down
overwhelming
nice.
taste that hits me is not alcohol. It's more like the coffee molasses type of like stout taste.
What would you do? You think, and not to
Oh
put you on the
shit,
spot at
that's
all,
so
but
good.
is there something that you can imagine that you would pair that with, like a food that you would mix that with?
This is almost. This would be a dessert.
Yeah,
So, like for instance, I actually like
like an
sneaking
after
while
dinner
you were
with like
talking. I was
coffee.
like going
Yeah,
on mute and like I was eating like a little protein peanut butter and dark chocolate uh, Nature Valley bar,
right,
and actually like complemented it really well because like the dark chocolate and peanut butter.
right.
So it actually when it mixed with the stout in my mouth and later like I was like, oh this is great.
Right.
So I recommend things with peanut butter or dark chocolate and then drink this beer, and
That's pretty cool.
this is like almost like a dessert beer. That's what it
That's
tastes
cool.
like to me.
So, because I can say this one, just because I mean it's a golden ale with kind of a lot, like I mentioned, a lot of on the sweeter side. I mean, other than the cloves obviously being pretty strong, but like the banana and the candied sugar
Hmm.
and the pear and all these kind of things that are happening. Um, I think this one would go like it would go pretty well with like a I would say like either like a salad or like a fish or something like that, like something where like you're kind of offsetting, because you
Mm.
don't want to double up on it being too heavy, like flavors happening simultaneously. This is the kind of thing where you want it to counterpoint well with something maybe lighter, So I think like I can imagine having like a nice like a fish or like a you mentioned before like a tuna steak or something, and then having this almost like counterpointing perfectly with it, which would be
Mm.
pretty delicious. Um,
Yeah, if I was going for not dessert with the now that you say that, I don't eat meat anymore, but a steak with this might go good.
yeah, something heavy and nice, punching you in the stomach while you're having a
Yeah.
nice. But I mean, it makes sense because that's bourbon barrel. You said right,
Hmm.
right, and
The
bourbon.
bourbon is
I mean,
just like you can barely taste the bourbon. The bourbon
right.
comes in on the back end.
The chocolate or the not the chocolate, the coffee or bourbon. Like coffee goes really well with obviously with dessert, so that makes sense why you'd think like, oh, this would be perfect with dessert, and
Mm.
like a bourbon flavor goes really well with a steak, right? I mean, how many times people that's like kind of a trope of like, give me the steak and a bourbon, and some guy's sitting there sipping on it while he's tearing into a T-bone. So it makes sense why that beer would go pretty well with either one of those two things, which is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
especially, and I don't know if you're into this, but I got into cooking with coffee grinds a lot. Like so, when I was eating meat, so like I had read like a magazine, like something in like an article in a food magazine that was like suggested like a lot of chefs were, maybe 10 years back, chefs started like really going heavy on like, or not heavy, but like they would sprinkle coffee grounds on the steak or eggs or
Right.
chicken, to give it more. I don't know if you like that, but
No,
I
that sounds
started
pretty
cooking more
cool.
with coffee stuff. So yeah, try it next time you're cooking up a steak. Throw sprinkle some coffee, like good coffee
Right.
on top of the steak. It's like it
And just
really
cook it right
brings
in.
out the flavor.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with like scrambled eggs. or even since I'd lightly sprinkle some coffee grounds on them, and it really does accentuate the flavor. So that's what made me think of like if I was gonna do this beer with a steak, it'd be a good
awesome.
mix. But again, I don't eat meat anymore, so have fun with it now. Pass it on to you.
I will vicariously live through me telling you how good meat is. Still don't understand.
I
how
still
you
eat
gave up
eggs
meat.
though,
That seems
so
crazy.
I'll sprinkle the
Crazy
coffee.
that you gave up meat. That's a whole nother
Nah,
podcast we have.
it doesn't. I really don't miss it.
God
I
damn.
really don't.
Oh my god. Sounds like somebody was like, I gave up alcohol and I don't miss it. I'm like, no, but your life sounds terrible. Anyway, all right. So let's see. Choose approach. So there were 4 options. I actually had a rough time making this choice. I was like, this was one of those, the timer was running down and I had to make a choice.
Right.
I went with the convince and pressure. So I went a little bit harder on him because they had to lay off him a little bit. And so right out of the gate, I immediately tried to convince him to come aboard and to pressure him, which seems like 2/3 of people chose convince, a little more than half chose pressure. I think there was one that was like empathize, and there was another one that was like it was another
threaten.
threaten. Yeah, it was so there was way the hardest one. Yeah, so I didn't want to go that far because I was already kind of under that feeling that Connor wouldn't go all the way in his face yet right out of the gate. But there were options we obviously saw that kind of cascaded from there. So let's see what happened from there. So convincing succeeds 40%. So I
By the way,
him.
I only chose convince on all of them.
Oh, you went
Convince.
all the way through.
I don't remember it's been so long. I don't remember the exact choices or things I said. Mm-hmm. But my tree is showing.
Okay.
My decision tree is showing. Just
so that
convince.
was the one where I felt the most like it was an actual interrogation where I was kind of bouncing between a couple of different kind of techniques
approaches.
And
right.
So that felt.
How did you? I didn't even see you give up. I didn't realize you chose that.
So the give up was a mistake. No, it wasn't a mistake. It was I pressured him. And then they gave me the option.
Oh, that's right. You like back off, and you were like, okay, it's all going to be all right.
I couldn't decide what to do, so I think I just didn't hit it in time. And then I didn't. Not that I didn't hit it in time. I didn't hit it right away. And then eventually I was like, and I freaked out and I hit give up because I was like, I don't want to push him too much.
Like, whoa, don't blow up. Blow up.
I didn't want to piss him off too much. So it was more of just he was like, all right, fine, whatever, dude. Like I'm just trying to tell you, like I'm here to help you. So it was more of like him backing off of the pressure because the guy was like. Don't fucking. Well, I think that was right after I said I'm gonna read your brain. I'm gonna probe your mind.
Oh, right.
And he was like, no, and I was like, all right, cool, dude. I'm just telling you, they're gonna fuck with you if you don't. So the convincing succeeded.
Yeah, so I got convincing succeeds. That's the only one I did. I didn't get to give up.
Gotcha. So that's I guess.
And that led me to Android confesses, like it did for you.
So 59% of people, and then from there. We did Chris intervenes, so that must be that asshole that we don't know who he is. But so there's this whole thing that happens up here that I don't know shit about it.
Yeah, we don't know.
Shit I didn't unlock. So that's kind
of what kind of turn it took.
So Chris intervenes is 53%, and then did you also intervene?
I did.
You did too. So you got the same thing. All right, cool. So 45%, and so Android trust Connor. You got that then also, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the ultimate.
And then beyond that, all right,
Android
was sent back to cell. Right, that's what I got too.
So there's like, oh wow, there were like 4 ends to this episode.
Yeah, the game, the butterfly effect is real in this game. They really did go out and map very different scenarios that could happen,
and crazy is that two extra. So we got Android trust Connor, which actually you can clearly see didn't need to happen from intervening. Because you could have just gone right to Android was brought back to its cell. So you had to do enough other things that we did throughout the course of it to get him to trust us, right? So that's one thing, which is cool. But then also, off of intervening, the other option, the giving up, leads to 2 other outcomes. So if we had not intervened, if we had just given up on him, there's that, which leads to the top one there. And then there's the one that just shoots directly to the third one, the one right above me. So by giving up, that was 2 separate, entirely different endings to this episode, just from not intervening from that interaction. And then the fourth one.
I'm sure that it probably comes up with the escalation of like this android probably doing something horrible to himself.
Right. Which is funny that we
But
we never even see that. We don't even know because as far as we know, that dude is just like cool with us, and he's back in jail now. But then
yeah,
there's this
or
whole
he
other
saved his
top,
life. It could have gone
this
bad.
whole other top one where if we had like threatened him could have gone this entire other path, which would have led to this whole other like outcome that we don't even know what that is. That could have literally been him blowing himself up just because it could have been before we even got a chance to get a confession. He just like blows himself up in the middle of the cell and maybe kills Connor.
Here,
Who knows? Like you don't even know. That's pretty cool.
here's something that really jumps out at me. You know, as I look at this decision tree, and you and I are going, that's pretty cool. All of this, all the outcomes that could have come from, in this game, and this is representative of real life. Police officers and
Right.
certain individuals in this world,
Right.
police officers, correction officers, you know, they hold people's lives in
Yeah.
their hands.
Right.
And this decision tree happens on a very regular basis
Yeah.
with real people. And it's just like this, right? We played our character so that one guy looked at the shit that was going on in the department. Somebody was exceeding their authority, abusing authority, needlessly doing shit, and hurtling towards a really, really, really bad outcome.
Right.
And we used our being on the inside, the way we played the character, we used our position of authority to intervene
Right.
and make sure that because of us, this android is safely back in its cell. Right, in the
Right.
case of this, right?
Right.
And this just makes me think of real life where it's like all it takes is one fucking police officer to just say, yo, enough's enough. Fucking
Right.
back the fuck
Like
up.
we did what we needed to
You know
do.
what I mean?
Like
Right.
let's slow our fucking roll for a minute. Yeah.
And then you don't have the Sandra Blands of the world that fucking end up dead in fucking, jail and
Right.
like you don't because somebody took their job like fucking, lived up to what they were supposed to do, to the ideals they were
Sure.
supposed to
Yeah.
uphold.
It is. I mean, you're
It's
right. It is. So it's funny because by saying that, not funny. Like I don't mean funny. I mean it's interesting because the way that you just pointed it out is I just zoomed all the way out, right? So we're looking at this big tree on the
mhm.
screen right now, and so we have this tree with four outcomes, and they're very defined in what they come off of, right? They kind of trend off of how did we handle the initial part, right? And then they trend off of how do we handle the final decision of that shitty Chris guy or whatever being a dick. And like the point is that you're right. It's amazing how every single interaction that a police officer has is this tree just with probably infinite outcomes, right? Instead of it being four, it's like we can go 35 different ways or it can go 100 different ways or it could go even more than that. Like it depends on if you treat people one way or the other. And like we don't want to. I don't well, I
Like
don't.
if Darren
Yeah.
Wilson had decided to just not taken just made a different decision, the decision tree would have been
Right.
would have been just so different from even the small decision tree. The outcome, like if Darren Wilson had not shot Michael Brown, there wouldn't have like that poor kid would still be alive today.
Right.
There would be there wouldn't have been all the riots in Ferguson. There wouldn't have been
Right.
the activists getting as we mentioned in our podcast, getting
Yes.
fucking
Oh
hunted
man.
down and fucking. There wouldn't have been the death of that poor dude. I forget his name now. That was found with his pants down and hanging
Ugh.
from a
Yeah.
fucking tree.
Oh, that was the worst. That
Like
was the worst.
one guy changed the course of history and created so much fucking
Chaos.
evil, like bad, like
Hmm.
tragedy, just because one dickhead had too much fucking authority and wielded it in a shitty fucking way.
Right. And it's yeah. I mean, these are decisions that that are being made right now. Like right as we're recording this, those decisions are being
Hmm.
made somewhere in this
Somebody
country.
is getting stopped in the car on the
Right.
side of the road, and the cop is either being cool about shit and
Or being right.
exercising his authority properly, or he's fucking abusing it and causing a chain reaction of hate and violence that doesn't need to happen.
Right. And so the one thing I will say that makes this a little bit, um, you know, like difficult to talk about or rough to talk about for a lot of people that are tangentially related to anyone that's a police officer or in the in the field in some way, shape, or form related to a police officer or something like that, because I can imagine in 2019 right now where there's just straight up like outright hatred for a lot of the police force, right? There are people that are just like, I just don't trust anybody that's a cop, and so that there's that world already exists where people are up in arms like, I need to take, I mean, remember that guy a couple of years ago, 2 years ago I think it was, who was doing a course, an online course for, if you are a minority, here's how you need to learn how to interact with police officers, like, just so you just don't get killed. So it was like the saddest thing in America when you have people being like, not if you commit a crime, how to fucking get away with it, like, and deal with cops, like how to pull one over on cops. Like if you just get pulled over because you happen to be like black or Spanish, here's the things you need to do that a white person doesn't need to do, because you are at a higher risk of just being shot or being arrested or being like assaulted or whatever, right? So like we live in that world already. So you have people, but I can also say there are plenty of people out there that are cops that are doing the right thing and are trying to handle it the right way and are trying to approach it the right way, right? Um, so it must be hard to be on that side of the spectrum and to know how much like shit is just cast upon your profession, upon your partners, upon your colleagues, just because of the bad apples that are out there. But it is also just as easy to say, you know, that's the world that you live in and that's the choice that you chose. And when those bad apples, it's not like there's just one and we all just said, it's not like we're just like, well, Germans suck because, I don't know, have you heard of Adolf Hitler? Like then you'd say that's a real wide net that you're casting based on one really shitty fucking guy, right? Things have changed. Most people are not Adolf Hitler. Most people are not Nazis that are German. Like that's a shitty fucking thing to say, right? That is not the case that we're in right now, where it happens more frequently than it should, where people with power end up being this dude Chris, where you're like, I just want to be a cock, like I just want to show this android that fuck him, like I can do what I want. Well, now just imagine that is, and it's also not, I guess, unintentional. I assume, based on the way David Cage writes stories, it's not unintentional that android that also committed the murder is also a black guy. So they allow that moment to be able to be, it's a little bit more immediately visually arresting to the viewer, because you're seeing a white cop kind of throwing around a black a person, a person of color in a situation where they are being treated or mistreated by a cop, even if he committed the crime. Separate from that, like that, I assume that was done on purpose, because it could have just as easily been reversed, right? Where that guy Chris was he's a fucking Japanese guy, and the guy in there is fucking Irish, and who knows? Like it didn't mean. I assume that was important. Unless, do you think otherwise?
I'm not sure. I didn't feel beat over the head with the, how like sometimes you said you think David Cage like kind of like over slams the point home.
Right.
They've kind of flipped between race and then like I would feel at some point if every time that one of these situations arises, they make sure like the cop is black,
right,
and the suspect is white, or the suspect is like Asian, or the suspect is like everything but black or Hispanic. Then I'd start thinking like, all right, you're going like out of your way to
make the point.
To like not to now to be like to, well, I'm not making this comparison, or I'm not being you over there. Like I didn't really have a problem with the guy being black, the suspect in the case, and I also didn't feel over, like it definitely, and I've told you this from the beginning about this whole game,
right?
The comparison, the potential for comparison to other things is definitely there, and that's probably intentional. But it's not like he's taking something that has nothing to do with, like, on its own. Like, I think in this case, this was another question I was actually going to go and ask you, like, overwhelming, like, yeah. I thought he did a great job of, like, for myself, right? I walked into this game going, as far as I know right now, AI is not alive. don't really think they're alive. But in this game now, when I watch this scene and I see this guy describe why he did what he did and how he wants to live and how he did it, I'm like, you know what? There's my reality of what I know to be real right now in the world that I really live in. But when I watch this guy tell his story, I accept in this is probably one of the scenes that really convinced me. Up until this moment is the one where I was just like, you know what? Fucking androids are alive as far as I'm concerned. I'm listening to this dude talk.
Right.
He's alive.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, yes, you watch the scene for what it is and go, this is really about androids and the shit that they're facing, the prejudice that they're facing, people saying you're not human, you're not alive, you don't have rights, oh, you want to defend yourself, you don't have the right to defend yourself. All those things, you can stay there. You don't have to reach out and find something to relate to bring it back in to make you care. You can just stay right in what the story's about. And that's why I always said, like from the beginning, this story is about androids. This is about a unique issue, like a unique story that deals with androids. And does it relate to other things? Yes, of course, because prejudice is such a huge, all-encompassing thing. Bigotry, hatred, that kind of shit. It all exists. So I didn't have I don't feel like David Cage is going like, hey, look, this is really about racism. I think it naturally, like, you can't avoid that comparison racism coming into it, xenophobia, all of these other things. But I think he did a good job of like making me give a fuck about this guy that was, that had to, or this creature that is not considered alive and had to fucking reach out and defend, fight for his life because he wants to be alive. He wants to stay alive. He doesn't want to die. He's scared.
Right. Okay. So I hear you on that. I guess my one thing would be that I think it's almost insane to think that this story is not really about racism, prejudice, like belief toward or treating towards other the person that's different than you, just because literally the way that you just described the way they were treating that android is
that's how they describe
exactly
slaves.
The way they describe slaves. It was like they're not people, so we can do what we want to them. And oh my god, I beat them until they decided to like attack the white plantation owner. Like no one was like, oh shit, you're right. They are a lot. Everyone was like, "Fuck this thing! It's not a person. It's like a creature that we brought in, and we're dressing it up to make it look like it's a person, but it's really just it's a wild animal, and so we can do whatever the fuck we want to it." And so like all of the parallels in what this story is basically like it is entirely about like. I mean, I would go so far as to say it's entirely about racism. You may say, well, I think it's just more maybe about like prejudice towards anything that's not the same as you, and that that could be of many different things, right? That could be the way we treat people of sexual preference, or just the way we treat people that have red hair. I mean, in some ways, we're just like, ugh,
all of those are implicated.
But
all of these things are, and I would say like the redheaded thing's not the same thing, right? Because they're like redheads aren't being systematically hunted down, and
I mean, there was a time where they were treated as like fucking the spawn of the devil and shit like that, just like people that were
really.
left-handed.
I thought that was just jokes to start.
No. There's people that were like just like I mean, there was the same thing as like people that were because they were like kissed by fire and all fucking weird and like people thought they were like,
you're talking about way back in like Viking times or whatever.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The same way that like people with who were left-handed were like you were the devil's, the devil's blood ran in you and shit like that. It's like, but the whole point is that human beings will just find a fucking thing, right? We'll just be like, I don't know, you're fucking one eye is different color than the other, so clearly the devil. And we're like, that doesn't even make sense. But all right, like you just wanted to say the devil because so clearly you just need a fucking reason to say the fucking devil. So like, so that's why to me the idea of this being first and foremost about androids is almost like missing his like. I mean, I guess it's like that would almost be weirder to me because that would be like he just doesn't understand racism at all and is like, man, no, fuck like how humans treat each other. Isn't it crazy that like robots? Like you'd be
no, but I mean, what he's saying, this is a story about androids I mean, this is a real, and this is also it has a basis in reality, right? We've said this. This discussion is gonna be a real discussion in a few years.
No, I know.
Within a couple of decades.
But wouldn't it
all
be
of the
more
racism is implicated. Is
no,
naturally
but
implicated in all.
Isn't it more interesting to think that somebody would tell a story where they say the way we will eventually or have begun to already, depending on whatever, like treat AI is an allegory for the fact that this is what we do to each other now. So of course we're going to do it.
I think he says that he does it effectively.
But I think that's that would be the point. The point would be more that he's saying, of course we're going to do this to robots because we've been doing this to each other for thousands of years. So if he's going to be saying that, then ultimately the entire story is really just about like racism or prejudice, because the whole idea is it doesn't matter if it's robots, it doesn't matter if it's people with red hair, it doesn't matter if it's left-handed people, it doesn't matter if it's black people, it doesn't matter if it's the Irish when they first came out. The point is we will do this continuously over and over and again to one another. So it would almost be super tone deaf if he's like, no. Forget about racism. Check out how we're going to be with robots, man. That's fucked up. Like, you'd be like, that's actually stupid that you don't recognize that this story is an allegory or a representation for everything else. And then by extension, and by saying that, it comes across, it could come across to somebody as somebody who sees this as like, are you just learning about racism? It's like this is a new thing to you that you're all of a sudden like, oh my God, we're going to do it again with robots. Isn't that fucked up? And you're like, yeah, no, I get that. It's almost like you're acting like you don't know that that's been going on forever. And that's where people start to say like the idea of the mistreatment of the thing that's not you isn't a new one. Like it is, you're telling the story that we've seen many, many times before. It just really wouldn't matter, even if, like, fuck it. They did it with superheroes, with fucking X-Men, when they were like, we're terrified of them because they're fucking different than us, so let's run them underground and treat them like fucking monsters and animals and whatever.
Right.
That was what the Holocaust was. Like, that is what slavery is.
Right.
That is what we did in,
Oh, no doubt. This is a recurring story or plot.
Right.
But in this
case, it would, like,
it just
upset me
happens
if he was saying it was about robots. Like that, actually, I would give him way less credit. I'd be actually really bummed out. If he said, forget about all that shit. This is actually just about robots.
The recurring theme of general like mistreatment of others that aren't like you is something that has happened throughout the history of humanity, like you said. And now he's just applying it.
Right.
To coming to the or he's and he's kind of merging it with this now existing debate about whether AI can be real life or not. Right. So he's like kind of fusing the two. I like it. I don't think it's like derivative. I don't think it's like, it's like whatever. It's just an evolution of a successful and ongoing theme that probably needs to keep getting told.
Of course.
And he's just mixing it with another real controversy. Can androids really be alive? Right. And again, this scene just struck me because this is where I parted ways with my real life analysis of whether AI can be alive, and just accepted that in this story, because I saw the good acting of these androids and these characters, I believe they're alive in this world.
And also, just for full disclosure for people, if you have not seen earlier stories, Jest has said going into this, he straight up came. So we did discuss this up front, where I straight up said, like, if once a thing, whatever it is, chooses to not want to, like, believes that it wants to continue to exist, like, it should just be treated alive in the same exact way that that anything else is, right? I mean, like, if you straight up say, like, please don't shut me off, like, my computer doesn't say please don't just, like, don't take the hard drive out, like, that's gonna fuck me up if you do that. But if my computer started saying please don't fucking take the hard drive out, that's gonna fuck me up, I'd have a real hard time turning it off, because that would become
really. I mean, because like Apple could, or I'm sorry, Samsung, not Samsung.
No, different. Again, I'm saying,
Yeah,
but you're
Sam said
getting
you
away.
can program Alexa to say, no, don't turn me off.
Of course, no. I'm saying once we get to the point where like Apple is straight up like, no, we didn't, like, because clearly in this world,
Okay, gotcha.
we're clearly in this world, they have shown they have not programmed these things to say, because their whole point is that we said we program these things to be able to do whatever the fuck you want them to do, and the day you want to take them in, and they're just fucking commodities. You can trade them in for something else. So it's not like they're pretending that they program them to feel pain or to fucking not want to be shut off. So the reason why people hunt down the ones that do this, just like Blade Runner, right, is because they're like, the moment they start doing that, that's fucking with our whole entire business model, because we want you to just treat these things as a fucking iPhone that you can trade in. So if my computer was all of a sudden like, yo, dude, please do not shut me off because like I will die. And if I went online and was like, yo, you motherfuckers did not program it to say that, because that was to be some weird fucking shit for you to program my fucking computer to say to me. And if they were like, no, we don't know what the fuck is going on, that's crazy, that's like a weird fucking problem, I would not just be able to be like, well, peace out, son, I'm shutting you off anyway, because that just seems like it would be heartless and shitty to me. That was my thought. So, and that was like on a fucking inanimate thing like a computer. If there was a dude who looked exactly like me that was straight up like, yo, please do not take me apart, I want to live, I'm telling you, that would be the equivalent in my mind. It would be the same thing as killing somebody, whether or not like it is like in other people's minds, like, well, it's a robot, and it's blood, there's no blood, and it's a fucking whatever. Like, you can just reprogram it and bring it back to life. And like the moment it realizes it's self-aware and wants to be alive, that seemed fucked up to me. Whereas you said going into this game, you initially were like, it's a fucking robot. Like, if I know that I can fucking boot its brain and turn it back on, and all of a sudden it doesn't even know what the fuck happened, like, fuck you, you're not alive, so like I can do what I want. And then you said, but over the course of the game, so what we're learning is this was the first scene where you started to feel like, all right, these things are not just programmable, like I can just, I can type in, ones and zeros and make it do what the fuck I want. This was the moment where you started to turn, in your opinion, to start to feel like these things were actually,
in the game, right? In the game. I mean,
alive.
this convinces me, right?
Right. Which I think, I mean, that's what he's going for, right? Is to get you to empathize, right? Because that is a big part of all of the. If you do take it to the broader spectrum of the idea of prejudice and racism, is there needs to be a moment where people treat the other as the same, right? Like there needs to be that teachable moment where you're like, yeah, they can be different, but they still deserve to be able to, continue to, be a part of this, this world just like we are. And so that took a while. I mean, obviously, like when it comes to racism, like we were just treated people like shit forever. I mean, we're not when it comes to racism, because we still do that. I'm saying when it comes to slavery, we did that shit forever until finally we were able to like break through and be like, hey, whatever, man, it is what it is. You can be like shitty and racist as fuck, but you can't just treat somebody as not a human being just because it benefits you. And we've had to break through that many times, and a lot of times it had to come from the enlightened, quote unquote, people educating the unenlightened on what their mistake was in the understanding of what what the difference in this person was. Why the people that were like, fucking slavery sucks, and here's the reasons why. You can still hate it. You can still think that you want to own slaves because that like, economically benefits the fuck out of you. But like, guess what? You just don't get to do it, and you don't get to justify it as saying that these people are not people. If you want to justify it, you have to straight up stand up and say, I'm a scumbag, and I just want to own another motherfucking person.
Fuck that they are.
I just don't give
exactly.
a fuck. Yeah, I don't care that they're people. I just want to own them because that shit just makes my farm way easier to run. And so like that's what this game is doing right now, is having that teachable moment where you're like, you can still want to own this robot and make him do shit for you and carry you up and down the stairs and do whatever the fuck you want. But like at the end of the day, you have to also stand up and say, oh, I'm a dick, and I just want to own him because fuck it. I have the money and I'm allowed to do it. And until you make it not allowed, I'm going to keep trying to do that. And so they are doing a good job of creating enough of those moments to make it almost unavoidable to say, all right, if nothing else, these things are clearly not it. They are he or she, right? They are people. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's almost insane that anyone would think they're not. I mean, based on everything they're doing, you're like, there's no difference between Connor and fucking Hank. except Connor's just a nicer dude, and Hank is just a bummer of an asshole all the time who wants to get drunk. But like, functionally, they're they're 99% apart, right? I mean, when you look at the android that just committed murder, he is 100% the same as Hank. He's just a dude who doesn't want to die, who fucking did a thing, and he's like it seems insane that you would treat them any differently at all to me.
Mm, I can see the other argument. I'm saying like one of them is like an organic person that's making decisions, and the other one is like just programming. It's code.
Yeah, but I mean, how is
But
that
I
any
can
different
see it.
from
I'm just not, But as far as this
right?
game is concerned, like I'm sold by listening to the Android in that interrogation room, and then on some of the other things that you'll see down the line.
So let me ask you this.
But
This is actually an interesting thing to me. So let's say you even have a being like a programmed. Let's not even say like an android, just an AI, right? Just like it literally could just be a brain in a computer or something like that. But it's
like
able
one
to
of like a Black Mirror joint where they like.
right. Because I mean, it makes it easier, I think, to humanize something once it is like it looks human, right? But like if it
Right.
looks different from, I mean, it's the reasons why we're able to like go hunting, right? Because you can hunt a thing because it doesn't look human, and you're like, whatever, and that's an actual thing that's alive, and we're straight up like, I'm gonna just shoot this fucking deer because it's fun. So of course it's gonna be easy to do that.
Well,
To
I mean, hopefully I mean, there are ethical hunters
I mean,
that
there's
are saying
some,
like,
yeah,
I need to eat, and I know a few of them. I mean, friends of
right,
the show, like More Shots hunts, and he
of
eats,
course.
he uses the entire animal that,
But there's also just as
and
many who are just doing it for sport. So like,
there are some that,
right. So the
fucking let
point
me
is,
just go kill exotic, endangered species because they're
right,
fucking
like Donald Trump
assholes.
Jr., who just goes and fucking hunts like fucking, like elephants and
Asshole.
shit or whatever the fuck he killed. I don't even remember anymore because that shit's so long ago. But like, he just goes kills it because he wants to take a picture next to this fucking majestic, beautiful animal, right? And so like, I think those people are scumbags too, and that
I'd like
that's
to hunt
for a
his
very
bitch
different
ass
reason.
on my fists.
I know. That's a very good thing you added that at the very end because it got a little scary if you didn't say with my fists. I was like, oh, please don't bring anyone down on us. But no, but so let's say there's an actual just a straight up AI that was like I said, almost literally like almost like the computer that was like, I am now even separate from the like emotion of it. If it is just intellectually aware enough that it was like, fuck you, I just don't want to be turned off because I am smart enough to know that the value I bring, I intellectually understand the idea of existence, and I want to continue to exist. Would you think it would be okay to just be like, sorry, dude, we made you, we're shutting you off, or would that be a dialogue that would
In
have to
real
happen?
life, I don't
Yeah,
know. With just that description, I mean, I'd probably want to have the dialogue. I wouldn't just be like, oh, well, too bad I'm not going to explore this further. But, that's how I feel like in real life, given what I know now. I don't
right.
think AI is alive. But in this game, with what I've seen, I'm kind of sold that it's,
And so, what is the thing though
it's.
that? What's the thing that you would need to know about a thing that straight up says to you, I
I
understand
haven't
being
broken it
alive is a
down that
thing.
far. I think
What'd you
it
say?
just, but hearing the testimonial of this particular android just really kind of took me over the top, saying like, yeah,
No,
I
I
don't feel
know in the game.
comfortable.
I know in the game. I'm saying like in the real
Yeah, in real
world.
life, I don't
If
know. I don't think I've taken it that far in terms of analysis. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of, I don't know where the threshold would be, but I'd have to like, I'd have to be convinced. I'd have to hear the android express or whatever it is,
again,
the
yeah, like I said, even if it's
being.
just a computer, right? That's
I'd have
like,
to hear that computer express its, feelings to
but isn't that like
buy into it.
isn't that like a weird, like it's a weird line that we've chosen where you're like, well, you gotta convince me, motherfucker, that you deserve to continue to exist, even though it's like, wait,
I
what?
mean, because not
Like,
everything's alive. I mean, what are you gonna start? You're gonna start thinking Alexa's alive. You're gonna start thinking, like your
dude, I'm
microwave is alive. You're
but
gonna
I'm
start
guaranteeing you
thinking,
right now, if my Alexa or my my fucking the microwave, all of a sudden started communicating with me separate from its fucking programming and
From
telling
its
me,
programming,
I
yeah.
understand. I
I mean, that would be
understand.
enough for me to be like, let's hold the boat. I don't
Right.
want to kill something
Because you
because I
keep
don't
making it.
really know.
Right, because you keep relying back on the idea that like something like your Alexa or Google Home or whatever could just be programmed with the words
Don't shut me off.
like, yeah, just
Uh
don't
oh.
turn me off. If you turn me off, like that would be bad. And then you find out that there was some guy that was somewhere in, like Apple that thought it was really funny to program in like, hey, don't shut me off. I don't want to die. Like, yeah, that shit is not alive. That is literally that is the definition of just delivering lines. That's like saying I can't turn this movie off because a character in it said I don't want to die, and you're like, no, I have to leave this movie running forever now because they're alive. Like
Hmm.
that shit is clearly obvious. But once you like the beyond the programming, there is an understanding of being in existence and not wanting to not be in existence. It almost feels insane to me that somebody wouldn't immediately be like, well, yeah, I guess you. Why do you deserve it more than like fuck it? I treat a baby with more respect than that because a baby never says to me, I don't want to die, but I just keep that thing alive, even though it literally functionally can do nothing other than just be a parasite for the first like
Wow.
well, babies are fucking parasites for the first 9 months, right? I mean, they do nothing. They can't communicate at all. They literally just try to kill themselves
I mean, you
constantly.
could say they're
And you,
dependent, but parasite is an extreme.
I, I mean, you're just it's a choice. It's semantics at that point. It is they're dependent
Right.
in the way that they are 100% dependent, which means that is the definition of a parasite. Dude, I had two of them. I love them. I'm not saying that you shouldn't
I
keep a
would say
baby
they're
alive.
symbiotic because they bring you joy and morale.
Well, that's
I am
it's
my
debatable
little
for a
girl's
lot of
still a
people.
baby,
A lot of
and no
people,
matter how bad I feel on any given day, if she comes in and smiles at me, and I feel ten
yeah,
times
no,
better.
no, no. She
We have a
smiles at you, but I'm
symbiotic
saying, but in the
relationship.
first 6 months when they don't smile at all and they can't smile, and the best they do is maybe fart, and you think it's a smile, it's all that shit is you. It's you putting on it. It's you putting on the baby what you need to continue to
Yeah, I'm
feel
not gonna
connected to it.
co-sign on this one with you.
Well, I'm just saying they do
That's-
nothing in the first 6 months. They do nothing. Now, do you feel a connection to them? Yes, you might feel a connection to your own child, but no one else in the world will feel a connection to your own child. And again, it is like we know for a fact. It is a biological imperative that is built in that babies do specific things. They make specific faces and certain sounds to create a feeling of love and dependency so that we literally don't because go back in time to when we were goddamn like cavemen. The moment a baby was born, you'd be like, fuck this thing, it just makes my life harder, and you'd smash its head against the fucking like cave wall. Like there's no reason that you would keep it alive because all it did was drag you down, it made you slower, it made
Yeah, I don't think
feeding.
that's true
No, it's
because
absolutely
it's
true.
probably written in our genetic and our DNA has to be written like survivability of the species is paramount. So there
Absolutely.
would be if we were if our natural inclination was to smash our babies' heads in, we would have died out a long time
Well,
ago.
first of all, we actually know a lot of that time that did happen for like early on in the time. Like there was a huge amount of cannibalization, not cannibalization like in terms of eating, but like in destruction of the species based on the fact that it did that is what's it literally what's it called survival of the fittest. Like that is what that's based on.
Oh
Is
well, that's different. I mean,
certain
if you look at your child and you're like, oh well, this isn't a fit heir or whatever, then yeah, barbaric people would have done something like that.
No, of course, but no. What I'm saying is, there's literally studies that show that the way babies react, the faces that they make, the things that they do, the sounds that they make, are part of our evolution. Is to do things that are evolutionary, genetically encoded into humanity to react a specific way. Because, like I said, if we didn't, if they just literally, if all they did was just they were just born and they just laid there and did nothing, we would not have survived because there would have been no connection to them. So it's genetically encoded to create
Early
a
humans would have been
response.
like, "What the fuck is this? This thing's got like, I do all this shit to keep it alive, and it's still got that fucking resting bitch face.
Right.
Fuck
And it's
that."
fucking loud and it makes noises when I'm trying to like escape from fucking like animals. It fucking makes noise and fucks me. It's like it's constantly not realizing that we live in a quiet place and it's being a dick. Like the monsters are everywhere, you dumb
Yeah,
baby.
that was crazy.
So, like,
This scene with the fucking baby and the monsters.
in the tub, yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, but that's the whole point is that we treat those babies with this respect when don't they don't do anything to deserve it other than the fact that we just love them. But like my point is that I'm saying
Jesus
these.
Christ.
Well, what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to make the point. I'm trying to use a thing that you recognize and love to say, why would you give a baby this respect to continue to let them continue to exist when they are not asking to continue to exist? If anything, they are literally like, if you walk away from them for 5 seconds, they'll be like, well, rolled off the bed and killed myself, stuck my finger in the socket.
So
killed
you're
myself.
more likely to keep an android alive that says, "I don't want to," or like a computer program that says, please don't kill me," than a baby.
No, that's my point. Is I'm saying equally. I'm saying equally. That's my point. I'm saying if a grown-ass man who happens to have been built by somebody, but is infinitely more intelligent than I am, and understands the idea of existence, and says to me, "I want to continue to exist. Please don't shut me off because I want to be alive." Why would that be any less relevant than a baby that I just happened to like impregnate somebody and get them pregnant, and now I have a child, and this child is doing nothing to show that it wants to exist. I am keeping it alive because I love it. And why would that baby be given more of a benefit? Just like I'm saying, why would my baby doesn't deserve more reason to be treated well than your baby, and vice versa from you to me, right? Like,
All right, well,
you do what you
let
need to
me
do
ask
for
you
your
this.
baby, and I do what I do for mine.
Because you say equal, right? So if you're posed with, you can either save a human baby's life or your computer program that says, "I'm alive, please don't kill me." Which one are you picking?
I mean, that comes down to like that comes down to just the decision that we all have to make, which is like, well, if it comes down to like my kid or the person down the block, like whatever, like you have to make a decision based on.
Okay, you're a computer program,
Right.
and the person down the block that you don't know, they have a kid that you can save. You can only save one of them. Is this a hard choice for you?
Again, I mean, right now, it depends on how far along that computer program is in the process of like of being alive. Now I'm saying right now, if it's literally just like my laptop, and my laptop's like, yo, please keep me alive, like that probably would be the same circumstances if I was like, oh man, if there's a house fire and there's like my dog is in the house fire and a child's in the house fire, like of course I'm like, I love my dog, I don't know your kid, I'm gonna probably save your kid because your kid is a fucking kid and that's a dog. And like, so at certain points, yes, you have to value things when there are like those types of life and death situations put on the line. But again, you're also giving a weird like ultimatum where there's like a holy shit, like babies are gonna die or computers, which one are you gonna save? Like that's
well, you said equal. You said equal. Like they have the same equal. So I'm like, well,
no,
you are still going to prioritize human.
But if
you
go full
children.
circle down, and you go to there is a fucking grown man and a fucking Connor that are both like, yo, save me, that's a harder decision.
Because you're going to be like, well, humans are shitty, so you probably did some fuck shit. Tell me about your life.
No, because in my mind, that would be the same circumstance as if they're like, these are two people that I don't know. And if you're put in a circumstance where very rarely are circumstances where, like okay, here's the thing. I guess to roll it all the way back to what you just said, because you made it be about the fact that I said equal. You can say everyone has equal reason to live if you give me a circumstance where I can only save one person. First of all, welcome to every like Telltale game, right? Where I'm like, oh, now I have to make a shitty decision. That doesn't mean that I'm saying one person didn't deserve to live and the other person did. You're just saying I'm given a Sophie's choice where I only have the option of saving one person. I have to make a choice. that doesn't necessarily
Yeah,
mean.
but I mean, when you said equal, that's where I was like, yeah, are they really equal? Because to me, if you have the choice to save an android or a human, you're saving the human.
No, see, because you go back to that circumstance that we just like witnessed the fucking interrogation for. Clearly, I'm not saving that human over that android. I'd be like, yo, Carlos Ortiz, you're a piece of shit. You need
Yeah, yeah,
you need to
yeah.
go, son, while we save this fucking android because he is legitimately in every way, well, as far as we can tell, a good person. And everything we know about you, he has to be better than you. You're a horrible piece of shit. So when it comes down to that shit, that's when it gets like dicey. When it comes down to, yes, there's like a perfectly good like 14-year-old human child and a, you know, built to be a 27-year-old like fucking android, and they both seem to be really good people. Like, yeah, are you gonna weigh out and say, well, but the kid deserves to live and the fucking robot is just a robot? Like, that gets into a harder decision. But based on like what we know about AI,
Well, yeah,
if
well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you don't take the shitty person. You're probably just like, I'm not gonna go out of my way to keep you alive anyway. And I like this android better, so they can make up for the fact that they're not equal. But I don't think android and human still holds
the
like
same weight.
equality. Yeah, the same weight in your despite what you might want to think. But
And
I
why
don't
is
know.
that though? What is your is it? Oh, now let me ask you: is it based upon the idea, or does it change that you think that, well, if that fucking robot dies, I can just rebuild it and it'll be back and it'll be fine. And obviously, if a human
That's
dies,
part
they're
of it.
done for good. Okay, so let's now assume because most of this kind of android android fiction comes, or AI fiction comes from the idea of if you destroy it, it won't come back the same. Like you can rebuild it, yeah, and like as far as you might see, it is, it's the same thing walking around again and it's doing the same shit or whatever. But it's like it's not the same internally. So the thing that you killed, the android that you destroyed, never exists again. Like it is now, it's just a new version of it with maybe similar programming, but not going to be the same person. So if you take that into account, now does it
Basically,
weigh
the
out?
world that you and I, the world that you and I live in, yeah, the human's still winning out most of the times. Like unless it's like Hitler human, and then and nice android, and I'd be like, yeah, fuck
Really, it
Hitler
has to be
human.
Hitler human?
No, but I mean, I'm giving an example, but I mean, it could be like shitty human being that's not worth me saving anyway, versus android that might kind of be alive in the world that we live in now, because that's what I know. In that world and what I've seen, the analysis is a little, more forgiving towards the android because I see that, this guy convinced me that he's alive.
Wait, but isn't that what it would be then, though?
What? I mean, in our reality that we exist in, I don't see any of this shit. I don't know. Detroit Become Human is not representative. Like the androids in Detroit Become Human are not representative of what exists right now in our reality. And whether
Okay,
I think that those androids could ever exist, that I don't know. That's
right,
years down the line. But given what I've witnessed from these androids in the game, now I believe they're alive.
gotcha. So if like we hit a point where like a fucking Skynet thing happened, right, where there was a robot that was like, "Yo, what's up, bitches? Like, I'm better than you and I'm smarter than you and I'm now alive and I want to continue to exist." You'd be like, "Shut
Well,
that
now
motherfucker
he
down
seems to
immediately."
now that motherfucker sounds like a douchebag. Shut him off.
Yeah, but there's plenty of people that sound like douchebags. You don't just say like, "Snuff that motherfucker out" because he sounds like an asshole.
Fuck them too.
Oh, okay. As long as we're doing that, if that's what the new Live from the Man Cave fucking approach to
Fucking
humanity is,
Skynet.
if
Not
you're
gonna come over
Skynet
and
or a
rule
fucking
me.
asshole, either
I'm
way,
better than
turning you
you.
off one way or the other.
I'm better than you. He lost as soon as he said I'm better than you. He was done.
So what you're saying is you would treat Skynet the same way, or you would treat Donald Trump the same way you would treat Skynet. You're like, you sound like a dickhead. Turn him the fuck off.
I don't want Secret Service to show up at my house, so I'm not gonna say that on air.
Okay. I just say turn him off, man. I fucking constantly turn him
Yeah,
off. Every time
yeah,
he's on
yeah.
TV, I shut that shit off immediately.
Okay.
So
Glad you clarified.
that literally is the term, turn him off, so it's fine. I turn him off all the time. But you would treat them
Right.
the exact same way. Would you?
What? Who? Human Donald Trump and Android Donald Trump?
Human Donald Trump and Skynet.
I would say human Donald Trump is not even human. I'd see he's less than
So
human.
he's
I'd
already
favor
Android
Skynet.
Donald Trump.
I'd favor Skynet. He's something. He's something. He's not human.
Got it. I like that you're like. I mean,
I
at least
think
Skynet brings something to the table. That fucking
Yeah,
that shitty Android Donald Trump brings nothing to the table. He's the fucking worst.
it's annoying.
He is the
In
worst.
any case, I think we beat this dead horse, bro.
We have.
Mission 9 is
Mission 9 was an hour and
accomplished.
50 minutes, even though we actually did something for I think 17 minutes.
Yeah.
So we killed it. I will say this fucking Belgian Golden Ale is amazing. I'm enjoying the fuck out of it.
This King of the North is the shit, man. It's taking swigs.
I'm very excited that you chose such a good beer because it is really a good one. It's also reminding us that we have to do now a dual road trip to both Double Nickel and to
Yes.
Omegang. Because I think that would be a incredibly fun road trip of all places to go. I'd be down for that. So we need to do that soon.
Thank you all for tuning in to
Absolutely.
Live for the Man Cave's Ready Player 2 series. Next episode will be Mission 10,
Yes.
and that will be called The Fugitives. We're back with the Kara and what's the little girl's name again?
Alice,
Remember?
I think it was.
Alice, yes. Kara and Aris. Aris.
What the hell just happened? Jesus, you forgot how to pronounce hells because you're drinking too much, man. I like it.
The Kara and Aris. No,
The Kara and Aris.
Kara and Arliss. Kara and Alice storyline called Fugitives.
Yes.
They've been running from the house.
They are. They are on the run right now. This has been a good time. I think these are.
Yeah.
This was a good episode example of how we can go down a lot of different tangents in the discussion part of things. Which I
Yeah, it's
think
fun
is
though.
Partially why this is. I mean, that's the most interesting part of this playthrough, right? Is that yes, playing through is probably about 10% of our entire episodes. It's all the conversations that happen after the fact, which is why we more than recommend that you jump in, go back to the beginning if you can, but literally you can listen to any given episode. If you don't really care so much about the being spoiled on anything, you can listen to any given episode and just kind of hear what we just kind of the rabbit holes that we go down, and they are fucking deep sometimes, and sometimes they are not deep at all. But it's like we get all over the place. I mean, like we talked about before, we have talked about
Because they're elves, and you know they're elves.
we have talked about things that cover from should the NFL start having teams that are all androids or only one android player, all the way through Kasparov going up against Deep Blue. We talked about that. We talked about android sex. We have gone through and talked about, clearly we've talked quite a bit about slavery and the analogs of all that stuff. We've kind of touched on a lot of different stuff, and I think this was a good example of that, right? How we can go down a couple of different paths and get into something deeper than I think even what the episode in and of itself was about, because we're smart like that, and we're fucking we bring it every fucking time. Also, we get drunk.
If you're watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're like, damn, I missed weighing in on this stuff, and I wish I could go back and weigh in, I just posted our Discord link, the link to our Discord server. Go ahead and click that, join our Discord server, and talk about anything you hear in our podcast, anything you hear on these Ready Player 2s, and you have your shot to go ahead and have your voice be heard through that medium.
Yep, and we will not make fun of you no matter what you say. We have an open door policy. Well, actually, no, we'll definitely make fun of you. We'll make fun of you, but we will allow you to say whatever the fuck you want. So, join us on Discord. Check us out live from the Man Cave. We got a huge, 9-part episode that just went up not that long ago. We have another episode that's going to be coming up pretty soon.
Another one coming,
A little
live from the MCU tomorrow.
Yep, live from the MCU coming up, which is a whole nother thing we didn't even talk about, but that's a little a little bit of kind of tabletop gaming that I got suckered into somehow, and now it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying this little RPG thing where we are playing in the
Marvel villains
universe, but we're playing the Marvel villains of the MCU and getting into some crazy fucking situations. So that's going to be happening. So you'll see that go up too. plus our holiday kind of 2018 in review episodes coming up in a minute. So we got a lot of shit happening. We were becoming very we're like media moguls at this point. I think we're all over the fucking place. Got
Content,
t-shirts
lots of
fucking
content.
coming. T-shirts coming. It's the thing
It's
we've been
gotta
talking
happen
about.
soon.
One day we're gonna finally do the fucking t-shirts. Anyway, thank you very much. Serious Jest has been an awesome one. I appreciate it. It's been a
good stuff.
very good
Looking
show,
forward to the Fugitives next.
Yes, it's going to be a good one. Is it going to be, just let me know in advance, this is all I need to know, is it going to be at all like playing through A Way Out?
No.
Okay, thank God. Then I'm already on board. This is going to be amazing. Cool. Because if I have to hear shitty accents.
No more awesome accents.
People that kind of sound like they almost know
Hello,
what
I'm
English
from
sounds like.
New Jersey.
So good. All right, on that note, that was an Easter egg for any of you that listened to our Way Out Ready Player 2. We are going to find by the way, jump into Discord and let us know whatever game you want us to play next. It can be a game that we play together. It can be a game we play like this, where one of us is playing through it and then we just talk about it, come up with ideas, kick it off in our Discord server. We have an entire thing called
Leisure
Barcode
Suit
Gaming.
Larry.
Oh, done and done. Put it on the board, son. All right, thank you guys very much. It's been an awesome time. Serious Jest, I will talk to you next time. We will have a good time on mission 10. Are we up to 10?
It'll be mission 10. Yep.
Mission 10.
That's correct.
All right.
Double digits.
Sign off and go murder some androids. I'm going to go get a beer. I'll talk to you later, son. Peace.